Hi and welcome to another video on the channel all about Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and today we're going to be having a look at a little bit more detail on the email that I built during the last video. It was a finance email, and within that email you would have noticed, if you watched the video, you would have noticed there's a chart in there, and within that chart there's a number of bars and some figures. So you're showing sort of annual performance of someone's portfolio, for example. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at how that chart works. So for the purpose of that video, I made it static. So today I'm going to aim to make that dynamic, use AmScript. It's going to be a technical session, and it's going to be somewhat longer than the previous video. So for those of you that are interested in how to create this using some free tools that are available online, and Salesforce Marketing Cloud, of course, then stick around and I will show you how we build those. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to need to do is, of course, navigate our way into the Marketing Cloud. We're going to have a look at our content. So the content I had prepared for the previous video sits in a folder called Finance Email, and then I have a number of blocks in here, so email, form and free form blocks. So one of those blocks is called Investment Inquiry, or Investment Inquiry Chart. So yeah, so you can see here there is a chart and it has 5 columns, and originally what I was going to do was to make this chart dynamic in the first place, but I didn't, just because I wanted to create the other video just to focus on the creation of an email. And this time I'm going to focus on creating this chart and making it dynamic. So this is a really cool chart that's actually possible thanks to these people, QuickChart. So they offer the ability to create charts. They have a number of plans. I think that there's a number of charts you can generate for free, at least I do, and it's proven very useful. So whenever I've had a client that said to me, well, I want to understand what the month-on-month or week-on-week growth of my database is in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Of course, Salesforce Marketing Cloud has those tools built in, but I just think it's nice to be able to just create a graph to send out as part of a report to, I don't know, to a marketing manager, an executive at businesses that is adopting Salesforce Marketing Cloud. It's just a really nice way of doing it. Okay, so this is what the chart would look like as a sort of end result, pending, of course, the different values that are going to go in each one of these columns. So if I just go into edit, all you're going to see here in the HTML editor, and as I said, this is a technical session, so stick around if you're that way inclined. Otherwise, I've got plenty of other videos that might be of interest. But this one is just really sort of understanding how this tool works. So in their documentation, you can have a look at that, but in their documentation they'll describe all the different components that form part of the image generation that you see appear on the right hand side of my screen, and you will see you have different labels. So you've got, I've entered some labels here, made them static, so I've got different years there, including 2023, and then I also have another label here which is users, and I'm setting things like the background color for the bars, and then the different values for each one of those bars. So let's say, for example, I wanted to make the values that appear in each year dynamic. So those are 5 values, and I wanted to use data that sits or exists against each one of the records that I store in a data extension. So for those of you that are not familiar with what data extensions are, They're essentially think of them as almost the equivalent of a tab in an Excel spreadsheet. So you can store data in there, any data you want. It doesn't have to be contact data. It can be transactional data. It could be absolutely anything, product data. It can also, of course, be contact data. But ultimately, you get within the Marketing Cloud, you get the flexibility to store absolutely anything in terms of data, certainly anything I can think of, and you can then use that and you can look it up and you can join all those different tables together, so you can have a sort of multi-dimensional data set that is going to serve your emails. So you might have emails that can feed off any number of data extensions. So I think personally I've only worked on emails that use about 7 and have sort of fallback logic in the body of the email if it's unable to find information on any one of those tables, and so on. So for now, let's have a look at making these 5 columns dynamic. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to want to set some variables. So for those of you that are familiar with AmScript, you'll want to open and close your AmScript block, and then you want to set your first variable. So let's call this 2023 is going to be my variable. Let's just do something like Y 2023, and then and then in here I'm going to have a lookup. So if you're anything like me and you don't remember anything off by heart, I think I'm doing something along the lines of lookup and then open close. Then I have the data extension I want to look up, the value I want returned, the matching column, and then the variable that I'm matching on. If I remember right, I think that's what I'm looking for. So email ADDR, which is a system reserved variable for email address, and then email address is going to be the column that I want to match on. So what will happen is when I'm sending an email, I want to, in this case, I want to pick up my email address, or the email address that I am sending to. I want to match that against an email address in my data set. And this is really assuming that I have a deduplicated data set. We can go into that on a separate video. And then the column I want to have returned, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but let's just go into this tab. So this is the data extension that I'm looking to use. So I've got investment inquiry email. This is the data extension I'm looking to use. So let's say I want to pull these values in from these columns. So I got PGY _ 5. So if I switch over to my code again, I got PGY _ 5 is the value I want, and the name of the data extension will be this investment inquiry email. So in here, let's just replace these single quotes with double quotes. Just a personal preference. I don't think it will actually affect the functionality. I think where it matters is if you're calling AmScript to run through SSJS, then I think you want to be careful how you use the single double quotes. In SSJS they're interchangeable, but if you're using variables within AmScript that's been called into an SSJS block, then that might matter. So yes, could be an interesting, you might get some interesting results there. Okay, so then we have this variable now, and let's say that is the last variable. So if I look here, I've got 120 static value there, and on the right I can see I've got that bar on 2023 that is showing me 120, and that could be whatever units of anything. In this case, it could be shares, it could be millions of pounds. So yeah, so in this case I'm just going to go ahead and print that variable. If I use the syntax that that I need to use for my AMP script to work, I will have % equals variable, and then I will call out that variable within brackets, and I'll close that dynamic placeholder there. So you'll notice one thing on the right, you'll notice that the graph has disappeared. So quite simply, effectively what's happening there is this is in real time pulling through results from that, effectively that endpoint there. So QuickChart IO. So if I just go here and I copy that, and then let's say I put another number in there, you can see now that bar has changed there at the bottom of the screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. It doesn't really know what to make of that. So until I actually preview this email and it resolves that variable, I won't necessarily expect to see anything in there. So I'm just going to go ahead, save and exit. I will create an email. I'm going to create an email using a template or a predefined template by Salesforce. I'll pick the top left for ease. I'm going to call this QuickChart IO, and then I'll give that a subject line and then drag that content block in there to see what that looks like when I preview it. So I'm just going to put it anywhere here for now. I'm just going to leave that in there. You can't see anything else appearing at the moment, so that's just got that AMP script variable or AMP script block. So I'm just going to go on to next, and interesting. So nothing's coming through on that column, but it is, I suspect, because the data extension I'm previewing with doesn't have that variable that I'm looking for. It doesn't have that lookup result. So if I just go ahead on to folders, data extension, go to finance email, pick that data extension, now I would expect to see something appear there. So I've got 550, which is the value that I'm expecting to have come through on the PJY underscore 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that across and select. Let's see what happens now. There you have it. So it looks like we're picking up this variable and it's printing that in the graph. So it's a pretty useful tool if you wanted to present something in the body of an email, send it out effectively. What you're sending out as an image. It's just a nice way of doing it, really. I think it's quite easy, as you see. In a few minutes, we've been able to create that graph using dynamic content in a data extension. So let's go ahead and do the other ones. So if I just go into this block, I edit that HTML. Let's go and make the rest of the variables. So in this case, I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to paste it in the next field. I'm going to call that 2022, 2021, 2020, and 2019. I changed the last two digits there. Okay, so 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Perfect. So all I have to do now is I'm going to then set those variables as well. So I can simply go ahead and copy my first lookup. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I already had one. So if I just go to 22, 21, 20, and 19, then in here all I have to do is update this to 4, 3, 2, 1. And I think we're done. So go save, next, and we can preview that, and you can see it's going up quite nicely there. I hadn't noticed that when I was looking at the numbers. So 150, 250, 350, 450, 550. So perhaps my original thinking was that portfolio is going up. It's performing very well. So it shows quite a linear progression in how your portfolio is growing in this case. So if I go on this top arrow here on the left next to the record that I'm looking at, in this case I'm looking at this record. So if I just go ahead and click on that arrow, it should then show me the other data here. So now it's actually representing that in thousands, so it's pretty cool. It's calculating, you know, what the largest value is, plotting that on the graph, seeing all the other results or all the other values, and then plotting those two. So of course you're going to get different top end value there. So if I go back, that's maxing out at 600 because I haven't got anything that is close to that value. So that I've got maxing out at 4500 because I've got a value there just over 4000. So that's all I wanted to do in today's video. I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, comments, anything you would like to see, then feel free to put that in the comment section. And until next time.